men, you have to give them the same seat, or else they...
You think?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, people get into habit, it's fine. It's actually a good thing.
Okay. I'm going to start from the Mishnah. Mishnah is on the bottom of the Yud Aleph, 11.
I'm at base.
Yud Aleph on the base, 11 base.
Nine.
Morning. We're about to start.
Okay, we're starting on Yud Aleph on the base.
You don't put it like you did yesterday? How did we do yesterday?
It's good. It's good.
Okay.
Yud Aleph on the base, at the Mishnah, 11b. Mishnah says, "Hakaymitz es mincha." The kain does kmitza, but his intention is lechol shirayim b'chutz. His intention is that he's going to eat the remnants of the mincha, which is the part that's eaten, but he's not going to eat it in the azara. He's going to eat it outside the azara. It's called chutz l'mkayman, out of its appropriate place, which is going to make the mincha pasul. Or he intends to have just the kazayas of it outside of its appropriate place, allotted place, which would be pasul.
So Shirai is smaller than Kazayas?
No, shirayim is the remnants.
I'm sorry, Shirai is
To
the
eat
remnants?
a kazayas of the remnants outside, either all the remnants outside, or even a kazayas of the remnants is enough to invalidate. That's a thought. It's enough to invalidate the sacrifice. Let's say while he's doing the kmitza, it's lahaktir kaimtza b'chutz. His intention is to offer the kmitza not on the mizbeach, but on a private altar outside, which is also invalidated. Like kazayas, probably mikaimtza b'chutz, or a kazayas of the kaimitz outside. Or his intention is to offer the incense, the frankincense that goes along with the mincha outside the azara pasul. This thought will invalidate the sacrifice. Now, of course, when it says thought, it's always famous machlekes. Where Rashi says that thought means speech, that he pronounces it. It's pasul ve'im by kares. There's no kares here. This is not pigel. Pigel is only if it's thoughts of outside the allotted time. This is outside the allotted place. This is called chuslam kaimai. However, lechol shirel machar, let's say he intends to eat the remnants the following day, and we know that a korban mincha in the azara, yes, important. Everything he's going to do correctly, except one point. He's going to eat the remnants. Not today, which when he's supposed to, because we learn from a korban taida, we learn the chatas to the taida, we learn basically that a mincha is only one day and one night. And he intends, while he's doing the kmitza, that he's going to eat the remnants the following day. It's too late. And so he had an intention of eating this mincha out of the time. And not just the remnants. He's going to eat outside. Only a kazayas of the remnants. This is going to be pigel, yes. Or lahakti kaim tilamacha. Or he intends to offer the kaimetz, which he has to burn on the mizbeach. Not today, but he's going to do it the following day. A kazayas mikaim tilamacha. Or he's going to do a kazayas of the kaimetz the following day. Or he's going to offer the levaina the following day. Rashi mentions here, why doesn't it say kazayas of the levaina like it does by everything else? He says that it's referring to the opinion that holds that you don't need a kazayas by the Levina, even one kairat. Remember, we had an opinion of Reb Shimon. It says even one drop of it would be. Could have said kairat. Okay, but I guess you lose the symmetry anyway. I guess that's why. Okay, so all of these cases are pigel v'chayav and olav kares. These are cases of pigel and chayav and olav kares if someone eats it.
I have a question of it.
Yeah.
It's when you're doing pigel, right? You're having in mind something else, right? It's the shoygig, right?
Okay. Shoygig or b'mezid would be.
Well, because if you're doing something b'shoygig and then somebody eats it, why do they get karas?
They're getting karas for eating it on purpose. They're eating it on purpose.
Oh, they're doing it. They know. They already know
Right.
that. Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, zeh haklal. Someone's thinking, I see. Zeh haklal. This is the rule. Kol hakaimetz. Anyone that does kmitza, einoisen bekeli, or he puts it into the vessel after the kmitza, right? And then hamelech, he walks it up to the altar, hamakter, and he puts it on the altar. This is all the kaimetz. And his intention is at that time, for one of these services, lechel davar shedarke lechel, to eat something which is meant to be eaten. Lahakta davar shedarke lahakta, or to offer something that's meant to be offered, to smoke it on the altar. And his intention is chutzlam kaimai, outside the appropriate place, which means either to eat it out of its place or to offer it out of its place, which means outside the Beis Hamikdash. It's possible. Ve'im by kares, but there's no kares. It's a regular chutzlam kaimai. However, chutz lizmanai, if his intention is to eat it or offer it outside of its allotted time, then the rule is pigel v'chayav and olav kares. It's pigel, and someone that eats it is chayav kares. Ubilvad sheyakrev hamater k'mitzvasei, as long as the mater is brought properly. What is the mater? The mater is the kaimetz is offered properly. That means it's explaining that everything has to be perfect with the sacrifice except for this one violation. If it has another violation, another invalidation, then it's invalid anyway, and the person doesn't get kares because of pigel, because it had its independent problem. You have to, in order to violate pigel, it needs to be a perfect sacrifice except for that one problem. How do they translate the word mater there? As long as the something was brought according to its command. Maybe they get out of it by saying mater in italics.
Burns it upon the altar. Not, no. Yeah, matir, right?
Is that how they say it?
Yeah.
Is the mater? Oh,
No.
okay.
What are they
Okay,
doing?
I was afraid they were going to do that.
No.
He wants to say, Kol HaKemetz, Hamaktir burnt lechel, lachtir
Bilvad, the last line of it.
Puzzle, Pigel Chamagars, Bavashi Yaktir Hamatir. But this is only true. This is true only when the perimeter.
Permitter.
The permitter.
Permitter. Okay, the
Permitter.
mater is the
Or the
permitter.
matir.
Okay, so the permitter. Okay, it doesn't explain it any better.
Exactly.
It's a translation of the word. As long as the permitter is
Matir,
brought
different,
according to the mitzvah. What is the permitter? The
Yeah,
permitter
matir.
is the kaimetz. Because why is it called the permitter? Because, or the mater? Because it allows the rest of the
Matir.
sacrifice to be eaten. Okay. Keitzad karav hamater k'mitzvasa. How is it that the mater, the permitter, is brought according to its mitzvah properly? So it has to go. You have to say that there was only one violation. That's what we're going to do. Let's say kamatz b'shtika. It's interesting that he uses the term shtika. Shtika is usually a term for quiet. Now, what he means to say is that he had no invalidating thoughts, or according to Rashi, no invalidating speech, because that's how Rashi learns.
Didn't you see that there's a nafkamina before, like some people say that speech is a big deal.
So when we say the thoughts that invalidate the sacrifice, some say that it means speech, not just thoughts. So the term shtika is easier, for me at least, when it's referring to speech, but it's not necessarily so, because you can have shtika by thoughts as well. His thoughts were quiet.
Mm.
So kamatz b'shtika, he does the kmitza without any thoughts that would invalidate it. Nasan bekeli, he puts it into the vessel, v'haylech v'hikter chutz l'zmani. And he does any of the following, which is putting it into the vessel or taking it up to the altar or offering it on the altar outside its appropriate time. Or the opposite. Shekamatz chutz l'zmani. He does the kmitza. The first thing he does wrong. And then nasan bekeli v'haylech v'hikter b'shtika. The rest of the sacrifice he does with silent thoughts, without any invalidating thoughts. Oisha kamatz, or he does the kmitza, b'nasan bekeli, v'haylech v'hikter chutz l'zmani, or he does the whole thing with the forbidden thought, with the invalidating thought of chutz l'zmani. Zer shekar of hamatik mitzvasi. This is the example of, or examples of how the matir is brought appropriately. Ketzad loikar of hamatik mitzvasi. What's an example of the matir not being brought appropriately? Kamatz chuslam kaimai, the kmitza he had thoughts of out of the allotted place. That's the emphasis here. And then nasan bekeli v'haylech v'hikter chutz l'zmani. Then he puts it into a vessel, and he takes it up to the altar. He offers it onto the altar outside with intention of doing something outside its allotted time.
So
right?
here it's pigel and it's
probably eating it. This is not going to be pigel. Why? Because he already invalidated it with the thought of chutz l'kaimai.
Oh, so he doesn't get a double. It's not like
So it
double,
doesn't. It doesn't get extended. It doesn't add on to it. Oh, not only is this chutz l'kaimai, but it's also pigel. No, it doesn't work like that. Once it's chutz l'kaimai, then it's already invalid. Let's say he did the kmitza chutz l'zmani, and then nasan bekeli v'haylech v'hikter chutz l'kaimai. He did the offering it up, bringing it close to the altar, putting it into the vessel with thoughts of chutz l'kaimai outside its allotted place. So even though the chutz l'zmani was first, we'd say, well, he violated that first. But no, because the entire sacrifice wasn't brought with a chutz l'zmani, it became invalid afterwards with a chutz l'kaimai. So it's still not considered pigel.
Wait, so in other words, if you start off with a chutz l'zmana, he has intentions of doing it. Wait, he does it chutz l'zmana.
No.
Oh no, and intentions are
of eating it chutz l'zmana, let's say.
Right.
And then he does the next thing. He puts it into the vessel chutz l'kaimai. It doesn't remain a chutz l'zmana. It becomes puzzle because of the chutz l'kaimai. Or he does any of those services, or all of those services, chutz l'kaimai. That seems to be not necessary to cite.
Why is it with the bim kamsara? But bim kaimai is right away. It invalidates it.
Right.
But bismanai, and you do bim kaimai afterwards, it doesn't invalidate it l'chatchila with bismanai.
No.
You just said because the
chutz l'kaimai comes in afterwards and invalidates.
So why doesn't it invalidate l'chatchila with bismanai?
Because apparently the din pigel comes on it only after the service is done. After everything is done, so then we look back and we say, this was all chutz l'zmanai, or was there another invalidation in there? That's apparently how it works. Okay. Zehu shleikarav hamatik mitzvah. These are cases of when the matir, the permitter, was not brought according to its command, according to the way it's supposed to be. Minchas chayte, minchas kanais. There's a mincha of someone that committed a sin. The sin which is entering the temple when he's impure, or the mincha of a saita. It's called the minchas kanais. Shekamtzin shalei lishman. These are two examples. The two examples of a mincha that becomes invalid if there's the wrong intention being for a different mincha. Other menachos, we said it's still valid if the mincha is brought for the wrong mincha. Machavas, you brought it from marcheshes, you changed it. Your intention when you brought it was for a different mincha. With the exception of these two menachos, it doesn't work. if you intend, you're bringing a saitas or offering, and you intend that it's a donation offering, it's not valid at all. So what we're doing here is we're giving another factor that could invalidate one of these menachos, and therefore it won't become pigel, because it needs to be brought. Everything else needs to be kosher about it in order for it to be pigel. So these minchas, we can throw in one more variable that could mess up the pigel.
It's not even pigel. It's before the stage of pigel. Well, no.
Well, when you look back at it, you see that there was another factor here that messed up. Okay, shekamtzin shlei lishman. The kmitza was done for the wrong intention. Nasan bekeli, if it was put into a vessel, v'hilach v'hikter chutz lizmanei, and then what was done afterwards was all chutz lizmanei. Was for outside its intention was outside the time. Shekamtzin chutz lizmanei. The kmitza was done outside for intention outside the time, and then nasan bekeli v'hilach v'hikter shlei lishman, and then the sacrifice, the mincha, the offering was brought with the wrong intention for a different mincha, so it becomes invalid. Or the whole thing was brought shlei lishman. These are examples of that the matir was not brought properly, the permitter wasn't brought properly, and therefore it won't become pigel. Why? Because it has other invalidations here.
I feel like we're learning a Gemara here.
Mm-hmm.
Even though it's a long
And,
Mishnah.
and ironically, the previous Mishnah was like one line. Can't help it.
I'm sorry. Okay.
No, it's just interesting. What?
It's a long mission.
It's a long Mishnah. Lechel kazayas bachutz. You can just imagine that this had to be memorized. This was Mishnayos was the word Mishnah is like the word Shana. It means a cycle. That Shana is that you go because it goes over. So Mishnah meant to be recited over and over. That's because it was learned by heart. Just keep it by rote. That's how they would learn it. Just they would memorize by rote. Keep going over. The Aramaic is masnisa or masnisin is the same as Mishnah because the taf switches for shin. Masnisa is mashni. It's the same word, but it means to recite, to go over. Okay. Lechel kazayas bachutz. He intends to eat the kazayas outside, kazayas of the remnants of the mincha, outside the temple, where he's not allowed to. Mincha has to be eaten inside. Kazayas l'machar. He intends to eat a kazayas outside the, and he intends to eat a kazayas outside of the place, outside of the time, tomorrow. Kazayas l'machar, kazayas bachutz. In other words, now what we're doing is, before we were discussing, he did one service with this intention and one service with that intention. Now we're saying that a kazayas of the food is going to be eaten in the wrong place. A kazayas is going to be eaten in the wrong time. Let's say kechatzi zayas bachutz, kechatzi zayas l'machar. He's going to eat a half a zayas in the wrong place, half a zayas in the wrong time. Kechatzi zayas l'machar, kechatzi zayas bachutz, or the opposite, in the wrong time and then in the wrong place. All of this is pasul vein by karas. They combine to invalidate a half a zayas of this and a half a zayas of that. Combine. Why? Because it's both eating. Right? That combines. We have one opinion we had before that if a half a zayas of eating and a half a zayas of offering and on the altar should also combine, but the sages don't go with that. This is just eating. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says, Zeh haklal. This is the rule. If the thoughts of the time come before the thoughts of the place, then it's pigel v'chayavn al kares. This is the way you were understanding that what comes first makes it pigel, and then what are you going to make it kosher by having a different invalid thought? You're gonna kosherize it by that? That's not how it works. You already made it pigel. However, if the thoughts of the invalid place, the wrong place, came before the thoughts of pigel of outside the appropriate time, then it's pasul vein by kares. Then it's already invalid and you can't make it more invalid by adding pigel to it. That's
So
Rabbi Yehuda's
What's the
understanding.
difference in machshava between kares and non-kares? If you did pigel with Uzman, is there an aftermina between kares and non-kares? What's the difference?
If the thoughts if you had thoughts of eating the sacrifice outside the place where you're allowed to eat it, which means outside the temple courtyard, then it's not pigel. And if you had thoughts of eating it outside of
Because
the
it's not Zman, it's place. Right. But
outside
I'm
the
saying,
temple.
what's kares? How do you
Kares
get
comes in only if a person eats from this. If the kohen had thoughts of eating this outside the allotted time tomorrow, so this sacrifice becomes pigel, and then someone comes along and eats from it, a kazayas, then he incurs the kares penalty, punishment.
So if he has thoughts to eat inside the heichal,
Oh, I remember we learned about that. Yeah, we said that.
if
we
he
said
if he
that
bro-
wouldn't.
if he brought it inside and checked and ate it, that's what we learned.
You're saying if he's outside
It's
of the
outside of
heichal,
court-
and he
but it's
thought he
outside
thinks
of the
doing it
courtyard,
in the
though.
heichal?
Yeah, but I remember we learned about that. I don't want to say anything because it says something clearly. Okay. I think it had to do with. It's one of the first pieces we learned in Tzvachim. It had to do with because the blood can be sprinkled in the heichal, so they were needed 3 things to make it outside the allotted place. 3 things that you couldn't do there. Okay. However, the sages say because it doesn't matter which one was first. Always, it goes with the lesser. Pigel needs to be entirely valid, other than the pigel. But if there's a lesser invalidation there, then it will just become invalid because of that. I can imagine this, to understand this, maybe like in contracts or something, that there could be something in a contract where you could, I don't know, filling something out for the city or the forms, what do they call the things when you need to build something? What is it called? You get a permit.
Variance, yeah.
So if he messes up in one place and he does another thing that would give him a fine. So they say, oh, you're going to get a fine because you did. He says, no, I'm not. Why? I messed up over there on the top. I didn't write the date right. You see, it's already invalid. You can't give me a fine. It wasn't valid anyway. So that's sort of the what's going on here. If it has some other invalidation, so he doesn't get the kares.
Kares is death, right?
Well,
Spiritual.
kares is that
Spiritual.
his soul is cut off. What it means is that he would die at age 60. Or
Okay, so if you come across a dead person, they accuse you of killing him. He's already dead. Is that the same idea? I mean, you can't get...
well, here what's happening is we have one offering of food, one offering of meal, of flour, which is invalid, and you can't eat it. The question is, how severe is this? Does eating it get kares or not? So there's 2 invalidations on it. It has 2 problems. One is the time and one is the place. If it's the time, then it has kares. If it's the place, so the person that eats it, we were saying, doesn't get kares because it was already invalid.
Right.
It had a different problem. Okay, now the Gemara is an interesting question. Ibaylahu. Yesterday, we learned Machlekes, Yochanan, Rish Lakish.
Yeah, it's bringing it here.
Oh, thank you. So the Gemara has a question here. Ibaylo, Divrei Haimer, according to the one that said, which one was it? It says over there by you.
Yeah, it's in the session. אם נחסרו השיריים במקצת לדעת ריש לקיש, אין מקטירים עליהם את הקומץ.
According to Rabbi Yochanan, yes. Okay. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, Shirayim shechasru ben kmitza la'aktara, the remnants of a korban mincha, that part of them got lost after the kmitza, but before the kmitza was offered on the altar. Now that's a problem. However, this machlekes, can you then take the kaimetz and put it on the altar, even though you don't have the full remnants still there? Rish Lakish said no, and Rabbi Yochanan said yes, you can still offer it up. The rule is, though, you can't eat the remnants, but you can still offer up the kaimetz.
What happened here in this situation?
The kmitza was done.
Yeah.
You lose a section of the remnants that gets lost somewhere, and the question is now, can you go and offer up the kaimetz? The kaimetz was done, can you put it on? Or because the offering was you lost part of it, it's already invalid, and you don't put the kaimetz on.
So the question is, how the shirayim, how important?
No,
is
one
the
second. The question is, will some of the shirayim allow you to still offer the kaimetz up, even though the shirayim won't be eaten anyway? So maktir kaimetz alayim, the kaimel and the isin shirayim asurim b'achila, and we established that you can't eat them. Okay, so according to this opinion, Ma'u de tahani la'aktara, let's say there's a second problem here. Okay, you're missing part of the shirayim, the remnants. This opinion holds that you offer up the kaimetz. You don't eat the shirayim. While he's offering up the kaimetz, he has thoughts that he's going to eat the shirayim outside of the allotted time. He's going to eat the shirayim tomorrow. He's not supposed to eat the shirayim anyway, because he's missing part of them. This opinion holds that you get to offer the kaimetz, but you can't eat them. So, what about that this offering, the offering up of the kaimetz, should establish the shirayim as pigel? Do we say, and to take it away from me'ilah, the way it works is that once something becomes permissible to eat, then the violation of having personal benefit from a sacrifice goes away. And it's called me'ilah. If you have personal benefit from something that belongs to the temple or something. So that applies to sacrifices that are very holy. But once the blood is sprinkled or whatever, then it becomes, the prohibition of me'ilah goes away, because it's a time already for the kainim to eat it. So over here, does the offering of the kaimetz allow for the me'ilah? Does it make the me'ilah prohibition go away, even though we actually don't eat it? But does the offering of the kaimetz, is that considered significant enough that two things take place now? First of all, it could become pigel, because that's a real offering. And does the prohibition of me'ilah go away? That's the question of it. So Amar Rav Huna. Rav Huna responds, Afilu Rabbi Akiva, even according to Rabbi Akiva, which I don't believe we learned. This is in Gemara in Me'ilah. The Amar Zrika Mayelas Liyaitze, it says like this. Let's say part of the sacrifice left the courtyard. Now, the part that goes out is, of course, invalid. But nevertheless, when you sprinkle the blood of the sacrifice, we don't say that the blood wasn't sprinkled for that meat that left the courtyard. We don't say that. We say that the blood was sprinkled for that meat, and the rules of me'ilah have already gone away off that meat. Okay, because the blood was sprinkled. Even though this meat you can't eat, because it wasn't inside, it became invalid. But nevertheless, the zrika, the sprinkling of the blood, takes away the me'ilah off that invalid meat that left the courtyard. Even according to Rabbi Akiva, that says that the zrika works in that case, hani mili yoitze, that would only be referring to meat that left the courtyard. The isa be'ene, it still exists. U pasal machmas davaracher. Who? And it's invalid because of something else. What is that something else? Because it left the courtyard. Aval chisaron the psula begufo. However, in our case, what's the psul over here? You're missing it. It got lost. Maybe it got burnt or whatever. it doesn't exist, then Laimahana Le'aktara. Then the offering of the kaimet is not going to help, and it's still going to be me'ila. And if that's the case, it's still going to be me'ila, then it's not going to be pigel, because we see that it doesn't help, that this offering of the kaimetz is not effective. That's Rav Huna's opinion. He takes Rabbi Akiva, and he says that Rabbi Akiva says this only about that when would the zrika help? Basically, we're bringing the mater, we're offering the mater, where the zrika or the kaimetz for something that has an invalidation on it. What happens? Does the zrika or does the offering of the kaimetz affect that meat or that sacrifice that was invalid for a different reason? So Rabbi Akiva says it does when the invalidation was that it left the courtyard. However, Rav Huna says he would only say that by when it left the courtyard. He wouldn't say that if it was lost, because it wouldn't be there for it to be effective, right? Amalei Rava says to him, I don't believe this could be Rava, unless it's a different Rav Huna. But Rava would not have seen Rav Huna. Or maybe he could have seen him. Rav Huna was a student of Rav. He had a friend, Rabba. Rabba had a student, Rava. So maybe it could be. So Amalei Rava says, or maybe it's not Amalei. It would make more sense that it's Rabba or it's Amar Rava, and you drop the lay, one of them. So Amalei Rava, let's just accept it. Rava says to him, Adrabba, on the contrary, I feel Rabbi Eliezer, even according to Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Eliezer argues with Rabbi Akiva. And Rabbi Eliezer says that the zrika doesn't help for the animal that the flesh that left the temple courtyard. Doesn't help, which means that if someone then has benefit from that flesh, it's still me'ila. In other words, the zrika that was done on the sacrifice did not affect the flesh that left the courtyard.
So Rabbi Akiva says it's more like cholim or something? Not cholim, but it's permissible, the meat.
Well, it's not permissible, but you don't have me'ila because the zrika was effective.
So what's the difference between the two opinions, between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Eliezer?
If the zrika is effective on something that's invalid.
Okay.
According to Rabbi Akiva, the zrika was effective, but we said that was only by yaitse. According to that's what Rav Huna said, but it wouldn't be effective on chaser. And Rabbi Eliezer says in his original statement is